In this second part of this series on how to launch your podcast for your personal brand, we are talking about getting your podcast launched, managing a workflow that doesn't mean hustle, that doesn't drive you crazy, and growing your podcast so you can connect with that perfect audience. I am including some of my best tips after almost 10 years in the podcasting industry. And at the end of this series, you're going to be able to launch a podcast and grow a podcast and connect with the dream people that you want to impact.
Do you want to be seen as the go-to in your industry, get more sales, easily attract new opportunities, but feel overlooked online? If so, you are in the right place. Hey, I'm Eugenia, but you can call me E. I'm a marketing strategist, a wife, and a new mom. I learned the secret of how to be seen as an authority and have people think of you for new opportunities and more clients. If you're ready to get clear on what makes your personal brand unique, build a magnetic presence online, and get more eyes on your business, this is your next move.
Okay, but before we get started, if you know you want to launch a podcast, you're just not 100% sure what your angle should be, you know that long form content is the way, and you know this because you listen to this podcast regularly, and you just want to know what your angle should be for the podcast, you definitely need my obvious choice bio builder. This is a free bio builder, a free document I have that's going to help you excavate your positioning, your angle, your perspectives. It's going to ask you so many questions, detailed questions about yourself. You don't have to answer everything, just whatever resonates with you. And then you're going to have a couple of prompts so you can take that document to ChatGPT and help you get clear on your positioning, get clear on your bio, get clear on your angles. Once you have that, the content is going to write itself basically, because you're going to have so much clarity on where should you go, what direction should you go with your podcast, which obviously is the foundation, is the platform of your thought leadership. So you can get this for free at clearbiobuilder.com. That's clearbiobuilder.com. In the last episode of launching a podcast for your personal brand, we talked about all of these pre-production items, getting clear on your message, your equipment, how you're going to record your content. That's very important. That's very, very important. You need to have, that's the heart of the podcast. But today we're getting a bit more technical on how to actually getting your podcast out there, making sure that it ranks, that your workflows don't drive you crazy. And not a lot of people don't make it past episode 8. I think that's like 80% of podcasts. Don't quote me on that, but it's a huge percentage. And then how to actually grow your podcast, because growing your podcast by being discovered has a science. It's not a science. It's more like a best practice. And even then, growing a podcast organically can be a little bit hard. So what are the most effective strategies to grow your podcast? That's what we are covering today. And we're going to start with your launch. The way I recommend you launch your podcast is with 3 episodes already up, because you want to give people the opportunity to listen to you over separate topics and help them make a decision if this is something that they want to continue listening to. Also, the way rankings work is by time spent, like minutes that people are listening to your podcast and how many episodes they're playing. So if upfront you give them inventory for people to listen to, you're going to have like more minutes accumulated in your podcast, and that's going to help you with early rankings, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So definitely recommend launching with 3 episodes. It helps you also if you're going to have 3 content pillars, quote unquote. And I talked about my approach to content in part 1. If you're going to have these 3 pillars or themes, having 3 episodes gives the audience an idea of what are you going to talk about, like what can you expect from this episode. And then you launch with 3 and you have 2 more ready to go in your back pocket, already edited, everything. The key with podcasting is staying 2 steps ahead of the game, because this is a weekly endeavor. It really is not hard. I've done every type of content. I've done Instagram. I do Instagram. I've done blogging. I have a newsletter. I have a podcast. I manage LinkedIn for companies. So I'm aware of the work it takes, several forms of platforms. Of course, YouTube. I've been content manager in teams, bigger teams with a YouTube platform. So I know how much time everything takes. I promise you, podcasting is the easiest and the fastest, but you need to be organized because if not, it's going to be easy. Like you have so many things going on that it's going to be easy to just let things slide. So I do recommend that you launch with 3 up and then you have 2 episodes in your back pocket. And by the way, I'm skipping the little technicalities on how to upload your episode into Apple Podcasts just because those things are available online, like on YouTube. You can like actually go and find it on a podcast. So I'm giving you tips that you won't find anywhere else that come from my experience and my years of doing this for myself and for other clients. Pro, like ideal. I didn't do this when I launched, and I did launches for clients, and this was hard for clients, but I think you would be more successful if you had a full month ahead. And actually, in my best times of like being very organized, I was always 3 weeks ahead of schedule, meaning I always had the next 3 weeks ready to go. I was never scrambling 1 week ahead of time. So if you could launch with your next month already done, that's going to be so helpful. That doesn't mean that you are not going to do anything for a month. You're going to next week produce your content and write and record and the whole thing. So that means that you're always going to be ahead. And I have a strategy for catching up, which basically means like going heads down and getting a bunch of content so you can finally get ahead. But you never want to just be like, okay, I have 3 episodes, I can chill for 3 weeks. Like, no, you have 3 episodes, work still on a weekly basis on your podcast, have some podcasting time. And again, I'm going to go a little bit deeper on this with the workflow section. Have your podcasting time, but you are never going to be pressed if something happens in your life and you have to cancel the podcasting time that week. So now in terms of launch strategies and like marketing strategies for your launch, the number one thing that's going to make a difference is building out your launch team. You need, of course, promoting your podcast on social and saying, hey, download and listen and give me a review. That's going to be helpful. But if you're launching a podcast, you need to have the commitment of people. I say at least 20 people on your list. And that can be anyone who joins your list. And you can even ask your friends like, hey, will you join my launch team and support my launch? I know a lot of people say that doesn't matter if you make it into, like, if you rank when you launch, because that's vanity metrics. And absolutely, vanity metrics matter in the marketing space, because if you rank when you launch, your podcast is going to be on a list and it's going to be discovered by more people, because people actually go to rankings and they're like, oh, let me see what's popular in this category, and they're going to find your podcast and then they're going to listen to it. And also, when your podcast ranks as it launches and you promote it on social media and you tell people like, hey, we ranked, that tells other people, hey, this is a podcast worth listening. So do not neglect the launch team and being very intentional with those people. Like if you could make it to 50, when I had clients, that was my goal. Of course, I was very on top of them. I would help them, text people on the whole thing. But when I had clients for launch, for podcast launch, I wanted to take that list to 50 people, because having those, I want to say, influencers for your podcast is going to be huge when you are launching. The way that you can create this team is you can have a form, very simple, that they can join. You can do this through your email service provider. For example, I do it through Flowdesk. Or you can have a simple Google form where they join. It's not going to be as automated. When I did it through Flowdesk, I would automatically have a list in my email and I would be able to just send them emails. It was very easy. But if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Like, you just send them like a Google email. If you don't want to send them anything through your official email service provider, you can just send them through your regular Google email. Just make sure you blind copy people, so BCC everyone, so no one sees each other's email. And if you're texting them, text them one-on-one. Like, there are so many ways you can have a Google form, and that is enough to start gathering your team, keeping track of them, Where are they? Did they leave a review? So what do I mean by all of that? You want to offer an incentive for people on your list to join your list and to do the thing that you ask them to do. So I was playing with the idea of offering either $100 gift card as a giveaway, or offering a couple of gift cards. And actually my people preferred a couple of smaller gift cards because they perceived that they had like bigger chance to win. So I did 4 $25 gift cards. But if you don't have a big budget, you can do like smaller. And if you have $500, do like 5 $100 Amazon gift cards. Probably more people will join. And then joining is not enough. They have to send you proof that they listened and they left a review. Again, you do want these early numbers, validity metrics. This early push is super important. As long as you don't think that, or you don't get frustrated, because obviously once this is over, your numbers are going to go a bit down. That's normal because this is people that you're pushing the podcast to them. They have an incentive to comment and participate. So obviously once that stops, you're gonna see a drop. Don't feel bad about it. Understand that it's normal and move on. Don't waste the opportunity of having a phenomenal launch just because you don't want to see the dip later on. So offer that giveaway, offer incentives for people to join your list and to do the actions that you're telling them to do, and explain to them why that is important. So don't just be like, hey, just like, can you do this favor for me? It's more, hey, we are trying to reach so many people. We're trying to reach entrepreneurs, creatives who are actively trying to build a brand, to tell a message, to really connect with others. And I believe I'm sharing so many valuable tools, and I want to put this podcast in the ears of as many people as possible. And when you listen and you review, you push the podcast in the algorithms, and the podcast actually reaches more people because of that. So your action beyond the reward means that this podcast is going to help so much more people. That was in my case. Like you obviously have to adapt it to your mission. A lot of people are not even going to give you like the evidence. Like a lot of people in my case, I would say like 70%, they didn't even care about the reward, about the incentive. They did the thing, but they didn't even send me the screenshots because they were like, I mean, they didn't tell me directly, but I could tell that they knew there was an incentive. They appreciated the offer, but they really just they believed in the mission, that they wanted to join and support the mission. And that is so important, to have people that are supporting your mission and supporting what you're trying to do with it. And then the incentive is a show of good faith and an opportunity to reach other people who maybe are needing a little bit more excitement to join the team. So do not neglect your team. You need to message them directly a few days before your podcast. You can even share updates like, hey, this is what's happening, this is where I'm at, share behind the scenes. Really bring them into your team, like bring them into the process. Don't just be like, hey, remember to do this. Like bring them into the journey with you. Reach out a few days before, be like, hey, remember, I'm launching on this day. I recommend launching on a Tuesday. I'm launching on this date. Please remember to to download, listen, and leave a review. It would mean the world. You can even leave a format for a review if you want to just help them with that. I would probably do like an easy way to do a ChatGPT prompt, if I'm being honest. Like, hey, leave a review where I include this is what I liked. And of course, they have to give input to ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT cannot make up the whole review, but it's just like kind of like help or ask ChatGPT to help them structure their review. That can be super valid. Like make it super easy for them. Also reach out to them the day before. Tell them, hey, it's tomorrow, the day of. And then a couple of days after, like 2 days after, because the first 48 hours are really important for your podcast. So it's not like they can do this in a week. Like we need them to take action the first 48 hours. So be in constant communication, and whenever they join your team, you can let them know, hey, I'm going to be reaching out in different times. I don't want to bother you. This is just to put it in your radar. Of course, you know your relationships. If you have someone who's very busy and they don't like texts, but that depends, of course, on specific situations. For the most part, I do recommend texting them a lot so they know that it's coming and they keep it present. And then in terms of content and promotion, just have fun with your launch. Like, really make it a marketing campaign. Embody your inner Taylor Swift. I don't care if you don't like Taylor Swift, but just like she's such a genius with album launches, but just like embody your inner pop star and have fun with it. Like, how can you make your launch a moment, something that goes beyond, oh, I have these episodes, and means something in the large scale of things, and invite people in, create content that you find entertaining, that makes you inspired, makes you laugh. There are so many avenues to create this content. Remember that your job during this launch period is to transfer belief so that people are as excited as you are with your podcast. So you first need to be super excited. You need to be super connected, because if you are not like in that very prime state, it's going to be very hard to transfer that sentiment to the external world. And then if you rank, rank is not super easy, but I think if you follow this plan and like really get creative with your marketing, you have a very good chance of ranking. And there are several ways of ranking. I'm going to leave a couple in the show notes. But if you rank, show that. Share that with your team. Be like, hey, team, launch team, thank you so much. This is what we achieved. Like, oh my gosh, I remember when I launched, I was number 5 in Venezuela, which was exciting because, I'm from Venezuela. So, of course, I was very excited. And it is amazing that an English-speaking podcast is ranking in Venezuela. I was ranking in Uruguay, Chile, Argentina. So these countries were in Latin America, Spanish-speaking countries, an English podcast was in the top 5. So that was exciting. And I was sharing that. And that made the podcast grow and grow and grow. So if you rank, share it. If you don't, share the reviews. At this point, if you've built your launch team, and you've stayed on top of them, you are going to have reviews for sure. So share the reviews and say, hey, these are the reviews we're getting. Thank you so much, guys. But make your audience, your team, everyone part of your journey. Now for the workflow. I want you to keep it simple. Like the launch, I could talk for hours because I think a launch is so fun. Your workflow needs to be simple. And it doesn't have to be complex, like a full Notion board with a bunch of specific fields. Like, don't overcomplicate it. Keep it simple so you are able to maintain it in time. My recommendation is that you work in batches. Always have one podcast day, and then one day, like 1 week, you are going to write, let's say, 3 episodes on your blog for your podcast. And then the following week, you're going to record those 3 episodes. And then the following week, either you edit them and prepare the show notes and even schedule them, or the following week, you are writing a little and editing a little. It depends on how many episodes in your backlog. But if you could make it to a point where you already launched with, let's say, gold star 4 episodes. Then the next week after your launch, you have your podcasting blog. And then in that blog, you are writing your 3 episodes. These episodes are not the episodes that are going to air next week, correct? They're going to air the following month. Or let's say 4 episodes. They're going to air the following month after this session is over. So you're always working a month ahead. Then the next week, those episodes you outlined, you record them. I think 3 is easier than 4, if I'm being honest. Unless you have 2 blocks for your podcast throughout the week. I personally cannot write 4 outlines in one sitting. I can write max 3 outlines in one sitting. So that's why I'm saying 3. But if you have 2 blocks, maybe you can do 2 and 2. So you write those outlines week 1, week 2 record, week 3 can be for editing and scheduling, and then week 4 can be for planning, marketing, and promotion for all your podcasts. And then the next month, week 1, everything you did is being released in that month. And then you're starting the process again. That's a way of doing it. Another way of doing it is if you want to do, every single week you plan and record 2 episodes, and then the next week you edit them and get them ready, and it's more like a 2 2-episode increment, that also works. It really depends on your energy, but I do recommend that you are never recording the next week's episode the week before. Like, that is so much stress because eventually you're gonna end up recording the day before, and that can get stressful, and eventually you're gonna drop it because it's gonna feel like hustle. I am currently especially because I'm a mom and my schedule is a little bit unpredictable, I am currently in a record and release cadence. But remember that I was a podcast manager for 3 years. I've been podcasting myself since 2017. So at this point, I've gotten very fast. I have an editing method that makes editing super fast for me, and you can listen to part 1 for that. I don't overthink it. I don't try to make every episode the biggest. I need a Grammy because of my episode. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to provide incredible value, very specific. That's why you have an outline, record, and then release. And of course, listen to your own episodes. Please listen to your own episodes so you can give yourself feedback. I've been doing that a lot because English is not my first language, and my first episodes, like my first podcast in 2020 that I did in English, boy, it was a lot. It was a lot. So I really had to work on pronunciation, my cadence, my breathing, all these things. I'm happy I did it, but I was like, at that time, I was spending like 4 hours editing. Now I think it's ridiculous. I should have just done 10-minute episodes, but whatever. That's why I told you last week, do not make these super long episodes if you don't have good things to fill it with, or if it's gonna take you like 5 hours to do. But the point is, do not record the same week that you're releasing or just like the week before, because that can get like you are basically racing against yourself. Be consistent. And in terms of workflow, for every episode, you're going to need an outline, the actual episode, the recording. Then you're going to need editing. And I talked about this on the last episode, like part 1. You're going to need the show notes, and that's the episode description. And that has tried to make it filled with SEO words and your main links, the link to your lead magnet, to your offer, the link to your Instagram, how to get in touch. And then every episode needs a promotional plan. So outline, episode, editing, show notes, and promo plan. Now, to the question everyone has been asking, do you need video? No, you do not need video to begin with. It is, however, an exciting opportunity. Podcasts with video perform really well, and platforms like Spotify recommend podcasts with video. Your video can be on YouTube and grow organically. So yes, definitely, it is an amazing opportunity, but editing and uploading video is a completely different game. So don't overcomplicate it when you are just starting out. Once you have the hang of it, definitely add video. If you have a team, they can take care of all of the pieces for you from the start. Awesome. Do the whole thing, because yeah, video is very valuable and is going to become very valuable. Apple Podcasts just added video to their platform. So that tells you that video is where podcasts are going. But I don't want the lack of video to prevent you from getting it out there. And now for the final part of this podcast, the growth part of the podcast. This is going to be more like a rapid fire series of tips because I know we're a little bit over time. But first, ads. That's like the fastest, the one that you can control the most. You can do it from the comfort of your couch. You can start running your ads on like a Saturday night. Like, you don't need to coordinate anything with anyone else, which is important in the other steps. So for ads, if you look on YouTube how to run successful ads, you're going to find that. Basically, you're promoting your episode as the offer, but don't just say, listen to my podcast. More like, this episode is going to provide XYZ solution for you, and you point them to an episode that is either excellent, strategically you've created it for a reason because it promotes your offer or your lead magnet, or it's an episode that is very popular, people have loved it, so you know that probably other people will love it as well. So running ads with a couple of dollars per day, you can run a test for 2 weeks, see the results, and I'm sure you're going to be encouraged. The main podcast growth source, and this is quote unquote free, like you don't have to pay for it, and it is a free visibility tool, is podcast pitching. So you basically pitch yourself to be a guest on another podcast, you don't talk about your podcast on that podcast, but you talk about your ideas, your perspectives. And then if they say, how can people connect with you? You point them back to your podcast. So the idea is that you can borrow audiences and you can get in front of those audiences. You can also promote it on social, of course, where you're active. And I know this is obvious. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I just don't want to see another audiogram ever again, another little clip like this is 2021. No anymore. We don't do that. You can get creative with the audio and combine it with a series of big roll clips for your Instagram if you want. Also, don't do the random teaser. I've seen that a lot where people just put together phrases that are incomplete, kind of like leaving the mystery hanging, giving this vibe of next on Pretty Little Liars. Like, don't do that. That works if you have a big guest or if your podcast is more of a media company and you're going for intrigue. But even then, those huge podcasts don't do that every single week. So please, that type of intrigue that's not it. Instead, a good podcast promo for social needs context. So take something you're saying on your podcast, simplify it, because of course, if, like for example, this episode is particularly long. It's going to be over 25 minutes. So I'm not going to take one section because probably sections are a little bit longer, but take an idea and just go very specific about that specific point. If you said a phrase that's inspirational, you can expand on that phrase, as in like my reminder to you. Actually, if you have your transcript, and you can get your transcript for free on the Adobe podcast tool that I mentioned on part 1. And if not, the tool is actually super, super cheap. You could get your transcript and ask ChatGPT to bring you like specific content ideas or specific phrases that can be used for social. Don't ask ChatGPT for a promotional plan, because I've found that the promotional ideas that ChatGPT provides are a little bit old school. Like, oh, I have a podcast, listen for. No, we got to start with the value. Like, what is the single idea? And then hear more on the podcast. Unless you're sharing something that everyone has been asking you about, and then it's like, hey, this episode that you've been asking me about is on the podcast. But even then, that is in response to your audience, and it's not just, hey, I did this episode, listen to it. Specifically for Instagram. For Facebook, I do find that saying, hey, I have a new podcast, listen for this, and that is very helpful. LinkedIn also is very helpful. So you gotta find like your context to adapt it. But that's what I say. Adapt the promotion to the platform and not just say the same thing everywhere you're going. So there you have it, my launch workflow and growth plan for launching your podcast. If you listen to these 2 episodes, you take notes, you are going to have such an incredible launch. And if you focus your energy on the workflow portion, you are going to have an incredible podcasting journey. The doors are open. The opportunities are limitless where you can reach, impact, and grow your brand with. So have fun. Enjoy your vision. Of course, I'm here for you. Come on Instagram. Ask me any questions. I am an open book. That's why I made these 2 episodes with details that you wouldn't find on YouTube. I want to see you win. I want to see you reach more people. I want to see your voice be heard. I am here for it, and I'm rooting for you as always. Until next time, take care. Un beso.
I hope you loved today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and send it to someone who's ready to be seen as the go-to in their industry? Also, please leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I love reading your comments. They remind me of those little notes you would send your friends in high school, you know? Okay, see you back here soon with the next episode. Un beso.